What would you do if people treated you like you didn't belong, when in reality you were the most qualified person in the room? Imagine being mocked, dismissed, and finally fired from your job only to have military helicopters land in the parking lot, armed soldiers storming through the doors asking for you by name. That's exactly what happened to one quiet nurse who kept her head down and never told anyone who she really was. And when the truth came out, it changed everything. Before we dive in, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if you're new here, hit subscribe because this story is absolutely incredible. Let me introduce you to Amada Bennett. It's her first day at Metro General Hospital, and she's walking through the emergency department doors wearing plain scrubs. No makeup, her natural hair pulled back in a simple bun. Everything about her appearance is deliberately unremarkable. She wants to blend in, disappear into the background, be nobody special. The head nurse, Maria Santos, greets her with a warm smile. Maria's in her 50s, a seasoned Latina woman, with kind eyes that have seen decades of hospital politics and somehow still retain their humanity. Amada Bennett, welcome to Metro General. I'll show you around. Amada nods, her voice barely above a whisper. Thank you. As they walk through the chaotic emergency department, Maria points out trauma bays, supply rooms, the break area. Doctors rush past without acknowledgement. Nurses hurry between patients, their faces etched with exhaustion. They stop outside the main nursing station where Dr. Richard Hayes is reviewing charts. He's tall, mid-40s, his white coat pristine, his posture radiating authority. Maria clears her throat. Dr. Hayes, this is Amada Bennett, our new nurse. Hayes glances up briefly. His eyes scan Amada from head to toe in less than 2 seconds. He doesn't extend his hand. He doesn't smile. He simply returns to his charts and says, make sure she knows where everything is. We're short-staffed tonight. Then he walks away. Maria squeezes Amada's shoulder. Don't take it personally. He's like that with everyone. But Amada saw the look in his eyes. She knows exactly what it means. She's seen it before in different contexts, from different people. The look that says she doesn't belong, that she's not enough. She says nothing. During lunch, Amada sits alone in the corner of the break room, eating a sandwich she brought from home. 2 nurses at a nearby table speak in hushed tones, but not hushed enough. Another diversity hire, one of them says. A blonde woman named Jessica. I heard they needed to meet their quota this quarter. The other nurse, a younger woman with red hair, giggles. $10 says she doesn't last a month. Did you see how? She just stands there like she's scared of her own shadow. Amada continues eating her sandwich, her expression unchanged. She's heard worse. She survived worse. Later that evening, Maria finds Amada restocking supplies in the medication room. The older nurse leans against the doorframe, studying her with curious eyes. You know, Maria says, I've been doing this job for 25 years. I've seen a lot of nurses come and go. But there's something different about you. Amada keeps her eyes on the shelves. I'm just here to do my job. That's what they all say. Maria smiles gently. Look, I know this department can be brutal. The hierarchy here is carved in stone, and people like Hayes think nurses are just tools to hand them instruments. But you don't have to face it alone? Coffee tomorrow morning? For the first time since arriving, Amada allows a small smile to cross her face. Maybe, Maria nods, satisfied with that answer, and leaves. That night, Amada lies in her small apartment. Staring at the ceiling, sleep won't come. It never comes easily anymore. When she finally drifts off, the nightmares are waiting. She's back in Yemen. The desert air is thick with smoke and the metallic smell of blood. Marcus lies in her arms, his chest torn open by shrapnel, his blood soaking through her uniform. Her hands work frantically, desperately trying to stop the bleeding that won't. Stop. Stay with me, she begs. Marcus, stay with me. His hand finds hers, weak but warm. His eyes, those beautiful brown eyes that had looked at her with love for 3 years, are fading. You did everything you could, he whispers. Don't blame yourself. Promise me. No, no, no. You're going to be fine. I can fix this, but his hand goes limp, his eyes go still. and Amada screams into the darkness of the desert night. She wakes up gasping, her sheets soaked with sweat. The clock reads 3:17 in the morning. She sits on the edge of her bed, head in her hands, and whispers to the empty room, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." 3 weeks pass. Amada learns the rhythms of Metro General, the unspoken rules, the invisible boundaries. She does her job quietly, efficiently, never drawing attention to herself. She notices things other nurses miss. She moves with a precision that seems almost mechanical, but she never speaks up, never challenges, never stands out. Until the night everything changes. It's a Friday, and the emergency department is overwhelmed. A multi-car accident on the highway has flooded them with trauma patients. Every bed is full. Every doctor is stretched thin. The air crackles with tension and exhaustion. A middle-aged man is brought in complaining of chest pain. Dr. Hayes examines him briefly, checks his vitals, and makes his diagnosis within minutes. "Anxiety attack," Hayes declares, already turning away. "Give him a mild sedative and discharge him. We need this bed." Amada stands nearby, watching the patient. Something isn't right. She notices the thin sheen of sweat on his pale forehead, despite the cool temperature. She notices the way his left hand keeps moving to his arm. She notices the subtle irregularity in his breathing. She steps closer, checking his pulse manually. His heartbeat is erratic, skipping beats in a pattern she recognizes immediately. "Dr. Hayes," she says, her voice steady but soft, "I think we should run an enzyme panel." His symptoms are consistent with. Hayes spins around, his face twisted. "With irritation? Excuse me?" His diaphoresis, the radiating pain to his left arm, the irregular pulse. These could indicate acute myocardial infarction. Did you go to medical school?" Hayes cuts her off, his voice loud enough for the entire department to hear. "Do you have an MD after your name?" Amada feels the weight of every eye in the room. Jessica and the red-haired nurse exchange smirks. Other staff members stop what they're doing to watch. "No, but then perhaps you should stick to what you're qualified for." Hayes steps closer, towering over her. "Which is following orders, not playing doctor because you read something on WebMD?" He turns to the room, gesturing dismissively. "Discharge this patient. And someone remind the new hire what her job actually is." Amada stands frozen as Hayes walks away. The patient looks at her with confused, frightened eyes. She wants to say something, she wants to fight, but the words die in her throat. She steps back. She lowers her head. She does what she's trained herself to do for the past 2 years. She stays silent. 20 minutes later, the scream comes from bed 7. The middle-aged man is convulsing, his monitors shrieking alarms. "Code blue, cardiac arrest." Dr. Hayes runs to the bedside, shouting orders that come out jumbled and panicked. Nurses scramble for equipment, the crash cart is wheeled in. Chaos erupts. Amada stands at the edge of the crowd, watching. Inside her chest, 2 voices wage war. One voice whispers, "This isn't your place. You're just a nurse. Stay invisible. Stay safe." The other voice, the one she's buried for 2 years, roars, "He's dying. You know exactly what to do. You've done it dozens of times in worse conditions than this." Hayes is fumbling with the defibrillator, his hands shaking. The patient's oxygen levels are plummeting. Seconds are ticking away. Amada makes her choice. She pushes through the crowd, gently but firmly moving a nurse aside. Her hands find the patient's chest, positioning themselves with muscle memory, forged in combat zones. "What the hell are you doing?" Hayes shouts. Amada doesn't answer. She begins chest compressions. Her technique is flawless, her rhythm perfect. Her voice comes out calm, commanding, completely unlike the quiet woman they've dismissed for weeks. Epinephrine, 1 milligram for push. Charge the defibrillator to 200 joules. A nurse hesitates, looking at Hayes. Amada doesn't waver. "Now?" Something in her voice makes them obey. The medication is administered. The defibrillator charges. Clear. She shocks him once. No response. Continue compressions. Another round of epi. Charge to 300. Hayes stands frozen, watching. This woman who has transformed before his eyes. Gone is the timid nurse who couldn't meet anyone's gaze. In her place is someone who moves with the precision of a surgeon and the authority of a general. Clear. Second shock. The monitor flickers, then, like a miracle, a rhythm appears. Weak but present, alive. The patient is breathing. His heart is beating. He's going to live. Amadia steps back, her chest heaving. The adrenaline that carried her through begins to fade, and she realizes what she's done. She's exposed herself. She's broken every rule she set for her new life. The room is silent. Everyone stares at her. And in Dr. Hayes' eyes, she sees something that makes her blood run cold. Not gratitude, not admiration. Fury. The next morning, Amada stands in the administrative wing facing Dr. Hayes and the hospital director, a stern woman named Patricia Caldwell. The office feels suffocating. What you did last night was completely unacceptable, Hayes says, his voice controlled but seething. You administered medication without authorization. You operated medical equipment beyond your certification. You undermine my authority in front of the entire department. Amada keeps her eyes forward, hands clasped behind her back. Old habits, military habits. The patient survived, she says quietly. That's not the point. Director Caldwell leans forward, reviewing a file. Miss Bennett, you've been with us for less than a month. In that time, you've shown a pattern of overstepping. Dr. Hayes has noted multiple instances where you've questioned his judgment. I questioned his judgment once last night, and I was right. Hayes slams his hand on the desk. You were lucky. There's a difference. Amada finally looks at him directly. For a moment, something flickers in her eyes, something dangerous. That makes Hayes unconsciously take a step back. But it vanishes as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the familiar mask of quiet compliance. You're right, she says. I overstepped. It won't happen again. But Director Caldwell is already sliding a document across the desk. I'm afraid it's too late for apologies. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. Please collect your personal belongings and return your badge to security. Amada looks at the termination letter. Her name printed in cold, official typeface. 3 weeks. That's all it took for this new life to crumble. I understand, she says. She stands, turns, and walks out without another word. Maria is waiting in the hallway, falling into step beside her. I heard what happened. Amada, this isn't fair. That patient would be dead if it weren't for you. Fair doesn't exist, Maria. I learned that a long time ago. They reach the nursing station where Amada's small locker is located. She begins removing her few personal items, a spare hair tie, a photograph she keeps face down that no one has ever seen, a worn paperback novel she never had time to read. Maria watches, frustration and sadness warring on her face. Where will you go? Amada places her belongings in a small cardboard box. I'll figure something out. I always do. You know, Maria says softly, in 25 years I've seen a lot of nurses. Good ones, bad ones, mediocre ones. But I've never seen anyone do what you did last night. The way you moved, the way you took command, that wasn't luck, and it wasn't WebMD. That was something else entirely. Amada's hand still over the box. For a moment, she considers telling Maria the truth about who she really is, about what she's done, about why she ran away from it all. But the words won't come. Thank you for being kind to me, Amada says instead. You were the only one? She picks up her box and begins walking toward the exit. That's when the sound comes. At first, it's just a distant thumping like a heartbeat in the sky. But it grows louder, closer, more insistent. The windows begin to rattle. Papers on desks flutter and fly. Patients in their beds look up in confusion. Amada stops walking. She knows that sound. She's heard it hundreds of times in places most people only see in news reports. The distinctive rhythm of military rotors. The heavy percussion of a Black Hawk helicopter dot through the emergency department's glass doors. She watches as the aircraft descends onto the parking lot like a predator claiming territory. Cars are pushed aside by the force of the rotor wash. A medical transport van nearly tips over. Security guards run toward the landing site, shouting into their radios. Before the Rotors have even slowed. 4 men emerge from the helicopter. They wear tactical gear, move in formation, and carry themselves with the unmistakable bearing of elite soldiers. They don't walk, they advance. They push through the emergency department doors without hesitation, ignoring the protests of security, guards, and the shocked stares of hospital staff. The lead man is tall and broad-shouldered, his dark skin weathered by years of combat deployments, his eyes scanning the room with predatory efficiency. Dr. Hayes steps into their path, his face flushed with indignation. "Excuse me, this is a civilian hospital. You can't just—" The lead soldier looks at Hayes as if he were an insect. "Where is Ghost?" Hayes blinks. "What? Who?" The soldier raises his voice, addressing the entire emergency department. "Nurse Amada Bennett. Codenamed Ghost, where is she?" Silence falls over the room. Every head turns, searching for the person these armed men are seeking with such urgency. Amada stands frozen at the end of the hallway, her cardboard box still in her hands. She feels the weight of every stare, the confusion radiating from her. Former colleagues, the dawning recognition in Maria's eyes. The lead soldier spots her. His expression, hard as granite, softens almost imperceptibly. He strides toward her, his team falling in behind him. "Ghost," he says when he reaches her. "Thank God, we need you." Tyler is down. Amada's face goes pale. "Jake, what are you doing here?" Chief Petty Officer Jake Morales is her former team leader, the man who recruited her into the SEAL medical program 8 years ago, the man who stood beside her at Marcus's memorial service. Tyler took shrapnel during a classified op. Jake says, his voice low and urgent. Depleted uranium fragment lodged 3 millimeters from his aorta. No civilian surgeon will touch it. The military hospital is 90 minutes away. He's got maybe 30 minutes. Tyler Reed, the name brings a flood of memories. The young medic. She trained before leaving the service. The kid who reminded her so much of herself. He's in the bird, bleeding out. "You're the only person who's ever successfully extracted DU shrapnel from that location. Fallujah, 2019, remember?" She remembers. A soldier named Patterson, wounded by an IED, the same impossible location. 12 hours of surgery in a field hospital while mortar fell around them. She saved him with nothing but steady hands and sheer will. Behind her, Amada hears the murmuring of her former colleagues. She hears Hayes' voice, sharp with disbelief, demanding to know what's happening. She hears someone whisper the word SEAL with incredulous emphasis. Jake grips her shoulder, forcing her to focus on him. "Ghost, I know you left. I know why. But Tyler is going to die if you don't help him. Right here, right now." Amada's hands begin to tremble. The box slips from her fingers, spilling its contents across the floor. The photograph lands face up, revealing a younger Amada in desert camouflage, standing beside a smiling man with kind eyes. Marcus, the memories crash over her like a wave, the blood, the screaming, the helplessness of watching someone she loved die in her arms despite everything she knew, everything she could do. "I can't," she whispers. "Jake, I can't. I left that life behind. I can't go back." "You don't have to go back to the battlefield. You just have to go to that helicopter and do what you were born to do." Dr. Hayes pushes his way through the crowd, his face a mask of confusion and wounded pride. "Will someone please explain what is going on? This woman is a nurse. She was just terminated for overstepping her—" Jake turns on him with barely controlled fury. "A nurse? This woman spent 8 years with SEAL Team 6. She has more confirmed saves in combat zones than any medic in naval special warfare history. She holds a silver star and 2 Purple Hearts. She has operated on wounded soldiers in conditions you can't even imagine, with equipment you've never seen, under fire that would make you wet yourself." He steps closer to Hayes, towering over the doctor. "She is the reason 47 American service members went home to their families instead of in body bags. So when you call her just a nurse, you're not insulting her. You're insulting every person she's ever saved, every sacrifice she's ever made, and every nightmare she still has because of what she's done for her country." Hayes stands speechless, his mouth opening and closing without sound. Maria stares. at Amada as if seeing her for the first time. "Oh my God," she breathes. Amada barely hears them. Her mind is somewhere else, somewhere dark and bloody and filled with the sound of Marcus's last breath. "I couldn't save him," she says, her voice breaking. "Marcus, I couldn't save him. If I fail again," Jake's expression softens. He takes both her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I know about Marcus. I know what happened in Yemen. I know that's why you ran. But Amada, Marcus didn't die because you failed. He died because some wounds can't be fixed, no matter how good. You are. You know that." He knew that, tears well in Amada's eyes. "I promised myself I'd never go back. I can't lose anyone else. Tyler is 28 years old. He has a wife and a baby daughter he's never met. She was born 3 weeks ago while he was deployed. If he dies today, that little girl grows up without a father. And the only person in the world who can prevent that is standing right in front of me, telling me she can't." Amada closes her eyes. She sees Marcus's face, pale and peaceful in death. She hears his last words, the ones that haunt her every night. "Don't blame yourself, promise me." She had never been able to keep that promise. The guilt consumed her, driven her away from everything she knew, everything she was. She tried to become someone else, someone ordinary, someone who couldn't be destroyed by loss. But standing here with Tyler's life hanging in the balance, she realizes the truth she's been running from for 2 years. She can't escape who she is. And maybe she's not supposed to. Amada opens her eyes. The tears are still there, but something else has replaced the fear, something cold and focused and utterly determined. "Where is he?" she asks. Jake's face floods with relief. "The helicopter. We have everything you need." Amada turns and walks toward the exit, her stride no longer hesitant or shuffling. She moves with purpose, with authority, with the bearing of someone who has commanded respect in the most dangerous places on earth. The crowd parts before her. Nurses who mocked her step aside. Doctors who dismissed her watch in stunned silence. She doesn't look at any of them, but she stops beside Maria. "I'm sorry I couldn't tell you who I was," Amada says quietly. "I wasn't ready to be that person again." Maria's eyes glisten with tears. "Go save him. We'll talk later." Amada continues walking, pushing through the emergency department doors into the harsh sunlight. The Blackhawk sits on the parking lot asphalt, its rotors still spinning at idle. 2 SEAL operators stand guard beside it, weapons ready. Inside the helicopter, Tyler Reed lies on a stretcher, his face gray, his breathing shallow. Medical monitors beep urgent warnings. A field medic kneels beside him, applying pressure to a wound in his abdomen that oozes dark blood. Amada climbs into the helicopter and kneels beside Tyler. His eyes flutter open, unfocused and glazed with pain. "Ghost," he mumbles. "Is that you?" "It's me, Tyler. I'm here. They said you quit." "Said you disappeared." "I did." Amada examines the wound, her trained eyes assessing the damage in seconds. The depleted uranium fragment is visible on the portable X-ray the field medic took. 3 millimeters from the aorta. One wrong move, and he'll bleed out in seconds. "But I'm back now," she says, "and I'm going to fix this." She looks up at Jake. "I can't do this in a helicopter. I need a proper surgical suite, fluoroscopy, imaging, and microsurgical instruments. The military hospital is too far." "I know." Amada's jaw tightens. "We'll use the hospital here. Their OR has everything I need. Will they let us?" Amada looks back toward Metro General, where Dr. Hayes and Director Caldwell stand at the emergency department doors, watching everything unfold. They don't have a choice. She jumps down from the helicopter and strides toward them, Jake and his team close behind. Hayes tries to stand his ground, but something in Amada's eyes makes him falter. "I need your surgical suite," she says. "It's not a request. Operating room 2 has the fluoroscopy equipment I need. I need it prepped in 5 minutes. Director Caldwell shakes her head. "Miss Bennett, you were just terminated. You have no privileges at this hospital. I can't allow that man has a piece of depleted uranium shrapnel lodged 3 millimeters from his aorta." Amada interrupts. "If I don't remove it in the next 20 minutes, he dies." The nearest military facility is 90 minutes away. You are his only chance. We have surgeons on staff who can— No, you don't. Amada's voice is flat, final. No civilian surgeon has ever performed this procedure. The military has done it exactly 4 times in history. I have performed 2 of them. The other 2 surgeons are currently deployed overseas. Jake steps forward. Director, the United States Navy is formally requesting emergency access to your surgical facilities for a classified medical procedure. We will take full legal and financial responsibility for everything that happens, but we need access now. Caldwell looks at Hayes, who seems to have aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. He offers no guidance, no protest. He simply stands there, confronting the wreckage of every assumption he's ever made. Fine, Caldwell says finally. Oh, R2, I'll have the staff prep it immediately. Amada is already moving, barking orders with the efficiency of someone who spent years commanding medical teams in crisis situations. I need type O negative blood standing by. Microsurgical instrument tray. Someone get me Dr. Patterson from radiology. I need the best fluoroscopy tech you have. And clear the observation gallery. No one watches who doesn't need to be there. Nurses scramble to obey. The same nurses who whispered about her, laughed at her, dismissed her as a diversity. Higher. Now they jump at her commands without question. Maria falls into step beside her as they rush toward the surgical wing. What can I do? Stay close. I might need an extra pair of hands. They reach the operating room where staff are already preparing the space with frantic efficiency. Amada scrubs in, her hands moving through the familiar motions with mechanical precision. Through the window, she can see Jake and his team standing guard in the hallway. She can see Director Caldwell and Dr. Hayes watching from behind the glass of the observation gallery. And she can see Tyler being wheeled in, his life measured in minutes. His fate resting entirely in her hands, the same hands that failed to save Marcus. For a moment, the doubt returns. The fear, the crushing weight of responsibility that drove her away from this life. Then she looks at Tyler's face, pale and young and fighting for every breath. She thinks of his wife waiting at home. His daughter, 3 weeks old, who's never felt her father's arms around her. She thinks of Marcus's final words. Don't blame yourself. And, she understands, finally, what he meant. Not that she should forget, not that she should stop caring, but that she should keep going, keep fighting, keep saving the ones she can. Even if she couldn't save them all, Amada pulls on her surgical gloves and steps up to the operating table. Okay, Tyler, she says softly, let's bring you home. The fluoroscopy monitor casts an eerie glow across the operating room as Amada studies the image of Tyler's chest cavity. The depleted uranium fragment sits like a tiny demon nestled against the wall of his aorta. One slip of her instruments, one tremor in her hands, and the largest artery in his body will rupture. Maria stands beside her, serving as surgical assistant. The hospital's best radiology technician operates the fluoroscopy equipment, providing real-time imaging of every millimeter Amada navigates. Outside the observation window, Jake and his team watch in tense silence. Dr. Hayes stands among them, arms crossed, face unreadable. Director Caldwell has positioned herself near the door, as if ready to flee at the first sign of disaster. Amada blocks them all out. The world narrows to the space between her hands and Tyler's heart. Scalpel. Maria places the instrument in her palm. Amada makes her first incision with the precision of a master artist, cutting through layers of tissue to expose the wound channel. Blood wells up immediately, dark and insistent. Suction. The field clears. Amada can see the fragment now, not just on the monitor, but with her own eyes. A jagged piece of metal no larger than a fingernail, carrying enough destructive potential to end a young man's life. She inserts the microsurgical forceps, guiding them toward the fragment with movements so small they're almost imperceptible. The fluoroscopy monitor shows the instruments closing in, millimeter by agonizing millimeter. Her hands begin to tremble. Not now, please, not now. The image of Marcus flashes through her mind as blood on her hands, his eyes going dim, the weight of his body as he slipped away from her. Amata, Maria's voice is soft but urgent. Your hands. Amata looks down. The forceps are shaking, their tips dancing dangerously close to the aortic wall. One wrong move, 1 centimeter to the left, and Tyler will die on this table just like Marcus died in her arms. She closes her eyes and takes a breath. In the darkness behind her eyelids, she sees Marcus again. But this time he's not dying. He's smiling the way he used to smile at her across crowded mess halls and dusty combat outposts. Don't blame yourself, he'd said. But there was more to those words than she understood. It wasn't just about accepting his death. It was about accepting that she'd done everything she could. That these hands had saved countless lives and would save countless more. That she was enough. Amata opens her eyes. Her hands are steady. Continuing extraction, she says calmly. The forceps close around the fragment with delicate precision. Amata begins to withdraw, pulling the deadly metal away from the aorta 1 fraction of a millimeter at a time. The fluoroscopy monitor tracks every movement, showing the narrowing gap between safety and catastrophe. 30 minutes pass, then 40. Sweat beads on Amata's forehead, but she doesn't dare ask anyone to wipe it away. Her entire being is focused on the task. Her consciousness narrowed to a single point of absolute concentration. The fragment comes free. Blood sprays from the wound, painting Amata's surgical gown in crimson. The monitors scream warnings as Tyler's blood pressure plummets. Clamp. Amata commands, her voice cutting through the chaos. I need a vascular clamp now. Maria slaps the instrument into her hand. Amata moves with speed that seems impossible, her fingers finding the source of the bleeding and applying pressure with surgical precision. Suture 4-O-proline, she begins. To repair the damage, her needle moving in and out of the torn tissue with the rhythm of a heartbeat. Each stitch is perfect, placed with the expertise of someone who's performed this procedure in far worse conditions. The bleeding slows, then stops. Tyler's vitals stabilize. His heart rhythm, erratic for the past hour, settles into a steady, healthy pattern. Amata steps back from the table, her legs suddenly weak. She looks at the metal fragment sitting in the surgical tray, this tiny piece of destruction that almost claimed another life, but not today. He's stable, she announces. Close him up and transfer to ICU for monitoring. She strips off her gloves and walks out of the operating room without looking back. In the hallway, Jake is waiting. His face, usually so controlled, breaks into an expression of pure relief. He grabs Amata in a bear hug that lifts her off her feet. You did it, he says into her hair. You crazy, beautiful genius, you did it. Put me down, Jake. I can't breathe. He sets her down but keeps his hands on her shoulders as if afraid she might disappear again. Tyler's wife is on her way. She wants to thank you personally. Amata shakes her head. She doesn't need to thank me. Just tell her to take care of that baby girl. Tell her Tyler's coming home. The other SEAL operators gather around, clapping her on the back, calling her ghost with reverent affection. For a moment, Amata allows herself to feel it, the warmth of belonging to something larger than herself. Then she sees Dr. Hayes standing at the edge of the group, apart from the celebration. Their eyes meet. He walks toward her slowly, his usual arrogance stripped away, leaving something raw and uncomfortable in its place. The other SEALs part to let him through, their expressions hostile. Hayes stops in front of Amata. For a long moment he says nothing. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he speaks. I didn't know. Amata studies his face, searching for the contempt she'd grown accustomed to, but it's not there anymore. In its place is something that looks almost like shame. You didn't want to know, she says quietly. You saw what you expected to see. A black woman who couldn't possibly belong in your world. It was easier to dismiss me than to question your assumptions. Hayes flinches at her words but doesn't look away. You're right, I was wrong about everything. Yes, you were. Amata's voice holds no anger, only exhaustion and a deep, bone-weary sadness. But I'm not telling you this so you'll apologize to me. I'm telling you because next time someone speaks up, someone who doesn't look like what you expect, maybe you'll listen before you judge. Maybe you'll remember that the quietest person in the room might know more than everyone else combined. She doesn't wait for his response. She turns and walks away, leaving Hayes standing alone with the weight of his failures. Maria catches up with her near the emergency department entrance. The older nurse's eyes are red-rimmed, her cheeks wet with tears she hasn't bothered to wipe away. What happens now? Maria asks as Dada Medier stops walking and faces the woman who showed her kindness when no one else would. Now I stop running. I spent 2 years trying to be invisible, trying to hide from my past. But it turns out you can't run from who you are. You can only choose what to do with it. Maria embraces her tightly. Will I see you again? Maybe somewhere down the road. The next morning, Amata stands in the hospital parking lot, a military duffel bag slung over her shoulder. The Blackhawk has been replaced by a standard Navy transport vehicle, less dramatic but equally purposeful. Jake leans against the vehicle, waiting. When he sees her approaching, he straightens. So, he says, what's the verdict? The team wants you back. Command has already approved your reinstatement, Amata shakes her head. I'm not going back to the field. That part of my life is over. Jake's face falls. Then what? Training. Amata looks toward the horizon where the sun is just beginning to rise. I want to teach the next generation of combat medics. Everything I know, everything I learned, every technique that kept me alive and kept my patients alive, I want to pass it on. Jake considers this for a moment, then nods slowly. We could use you at the training facility in Virginia. The new medics coming through, they're good, but they're green. They need someone who's been where they're going. Then that's where I'll be. She turns back toward the hospital one last time. Maria stands at the emergency department entrance watching. Hayes is visible through the glass doors, frozen in place, still grappling with the destruction of everything. He thought he knew. Amata raises her hand in a small wave. Maria waves back. Then Amata climbs into the vehicle, and the doors close behind her as they pull away. She looks out the window at Metro General Hospital shrinking in the distance. She thinks about the 3 weeks she spent there, trying to be someone she wasn't. She thinks about the people who mocked her, dismissed her, underestimated her. And she thinks about the ones she saved, both on the battlefield and in that sterile operating room. Marcus's voice echoes in her memory one final time. Don't blame yourself. For the first time in 2 years, she doesn't. The vehicle turns onto the highway, heading toward a new chapter. Behind her, the hospital disappears from view. Ahead of her, the future waits. Amata Bennett is no longer running. She's moving forward. And somewhere, she knows Marcus is smiling over the next 5 years. Amata Bennett trained more than 200 combat medics at the Naval Special Warfare Medical Training Facility. Her students went on to serve in every branch of special operations, carrying her techniques and her wisdom into battlefields around the world. They called her Ghost not because she disappeared, but because the lessons she taught stayed with them long after she was gone. She never returned to combat. She never needed to. The lives her students saved became her legacy, her redemption. Her peace. Look, here's what I want you to take away from this story. The people who seem the quietest, who keep their heads down, who don't broadcast their accomplishments, they might be the most qualified people in the room. Amata could have thrown her credentials in everyone's face on day one. She could have demanded respect based on her military record. But she didn't. She tried to blend in, to be normal, to escape her past. And when people judged her based on appearances, based on assumptions, based on prejudice, she stayed silent. Until she couldn't anymore. Sometimes the person serving you, Coffee has a PhD, sometimes the janitor speaks 5 languages. Sometimes the quiet nurse who everyone dismisses has saved more lives than everyone in the building combined. You just never know. And that's exactly why we should treat everyone with respect, regardless of what they're wearing or what job they're doing or what we think we know about them. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And drop a comment. Have you ever been underestimated? Have you ever judged someone and realized later you were completely wrong? Let's talk about it. Thanks for being here. Until next time, remember the quietest person in the room might have the loudest story, treat everyone like they matter. Because they do.